Welcome to Productivity for Neurodiverse Brains. I'm Jeremy, I'm neurodiverse myself, and I also am passionate about productivity and excited to share my tips and tricks with you. I've got both ADHD and ASD, and basically productivity has been one of my special interests since I was about 16 years old. It has worked out well for me. I have built and sold a startup, which really involved me being hyper productive because it was a side hustle for quite a long time and I had to get a lot done whilst maintaining my full-time job. And I'm also now working on a productivity app, Focus Bear. So you can really see that productivity is my world. Time is our scarcest asset. And what I've found is that as my responsibilities have grown, I've really needed to find ways to cope with the increasing demands that I have and to cope in a way that's compatible with the way my brain works. Because a lot of the conventional productivity techniques may not work well if you're neurodiverse. They don't all work for me. I've had to really fit and shape the tools to work around my brain. It is a worthwhile quest though, because getting more done in less time is essentially the goal of productivity, and it is possible. I've definitely found ways to make myself be able to get a lot more done, both through my own personal productivity and by identifying ways to get others to help me. What that means is there's more space for life. There's always a lot of work to do, but if we work all the time, then we're typically not too happy. I can definitely testify to that myself. I've gone through a period where I was working 12-hour days and I wasn't very happy, nor was my wife. So we really want to find ways where we can get a lot done, but within time limits so that we don't end up having work bleeding out. And that's a lot of what I discuss in this course around sustainable productivity. And I think that's more important for neurodiverse individuals than for neurotypical individuals. What we'll cover in the course is a pretty comprehensive set of techniques, beginning with the Pomodoro technique, looking at prioritizing using the Eisenhower matrix, finding ways to prepare for the next day through the clear to neutral method, looking at our weeks ahead so that we're not caught unawares by things that are coming up. Because I know as someone with ADHD, I typically have two ways of perceiving time, now and not now. And that doesn't really work. We really need to find better ways to be prepared for the larger tasks so we don't end up having to rely on hyperfocus to get us through. And we'll talk about time blocking, which is really helpful if sometimes, like me, you can be avoidant around tasks or you find that you can be a bit perfectionistic. Meetings are something that I find very tricky as someone with ADHD, and I discuss how we can have productive meetings, whether we're chairing the meeting or whether we are in the meeting. Then I'll talk about building a second brain, because it's not possible to keep everything in our head. And as someone with ADHD, I'm constantly coming up with ideas and I need a way to capture those thoughts in an organized fashion so that they don't overwhelm me. Then we talk about energy management versus time management. And that also includes thinking about, if you're like me and you're autistic, having a lot of time around other people is actually not great for my productivity because I'm super drained after that. So we really have to think about how we can optimize our schedule so that we can foster high energy. Then let's talk about multitasking, because I think that's pretty common for most people with ADHD. I definitely am prone to going into the multitasking world. And there are ways to do it effectively. I'll talk about mechanical multitasking versus mental multitasking. And the secret there is mechanical multitasking can work, but mental multitasking doesn't. And finally, we'll talk about blocking distractions, because if you go down a rabbit hole, it's pretty hard to get back out. The way the course is structured is there's a series of videos where I talk about the different techniques and I mix in a lot of my own experience and stories to make it more interesting, because there's nothing more dull than talking about productivity in the abstract. We also have some quizzes and assignments which help to be able to really crystallize the learning by putting it in your own words. I'm excited on taking you on this journey, and I'm excited to hear about other techniques that you might have as well. I am happy to see your questions in the Q&A, and I look forward to seeing your answers in the assignments. Let's get productive.